And welcome back to the Ed and Brooks Room inside Callahan Hall. I'm Denny Kapp alongside the 14th head coach and the newest head coach of the women's basketball program, Kate Achter. Kate, congratulations on the new gig. We're very excited to see what this team can do, not just on the court, but off the court as well. Just got done talking about some of the student section and the academics associated with the role with a couple of your players. But for you, you were hired, and Dr. Vowels, one of the first things he said about you was, I really liked Kate's vision for the program. So can you just maybe expand a little bit as to what he meant by there and what was that vision that you presented, Dr. Vowels?
It was just a clear path. What does our recruiting look like? What does our player development look like? What does it look like on the floor and off the floor? I think it's really difficult to find success going forward if you can't see how all of those pieces fit together. So we laid everything out, and it's great for everybody to know that because we want our athletic department to be involved in our vision as well and help us moving forward. So we just kept it as simple and as concise as possible, and so far so good.
So far, when you're talking about that forward progress, you mentioned a little while ago on the podium your 5-year plan, and you said this year there's going to be some challenges that lead to opportunities. Maybe expand on that a little bit as to what you meant by that, and also kind of looking forward, what are those second and third year steps?
Yeah, the challenge is that we're going to have to win some basketball games, and we're doing it with players that didn't necessarily pick to play for us. So they've been excellent so far. They've bought in, they've competed. They're really buying into what it means to win some basketball games and play together. So what we perceived that something could be initially be a challenge, it's not. So we still have to win games though. So that will be a challenge because our league is competitive. But I'm a big believer that you often learn a lot from losing basketball games, and it's going to turn around in a hurry. So year one there could be some difficulty. Year two, year three, year four, the sky is the limit. And I think that if we do our jobs recruiting, we should be all right.
Amani and I were just speaking, and Amani really drilled home how important experience is, and you bring a lot of that experience, right? Four tournament runs at Bowling Green. You play a year overseas. You come back, and eventually, after a couple assistant coach stops at Loyola, where you had a 2-win year that first year, but then you turn them into a winning team for the first time since I think it was the 1980s. So when you look at that and you talk about that 5-year plan, it gives you obviously some belief and encouragement, saying I've already done it once, but I have maybe a more stronger foundation here in Detroit.
Sure, experience carves perspective, and so there are already things that maybe as a first-time head coach or a young head coach, I did it one way and I've done it differently this time. Just because I found success, can be had many different ways, and so far so good. Not to say that there won't be other things that perhaps we stumble with here, but yeah, I'm extremely thankful that I had the opportunity to lead a program prior to this because turning a program is a lot of work, but I'm just really thankful that I have a clear mind and I have a vision for what that looks like, and certainly the experience to back it up helps as well.
And you've had a number of really successful, I will say, summer clinics here. You have an upcoming one. Rod Wells, Monique Brown, and some other really good local coaches going to be there. And when I say local, that's something that this program hasn't had a lot of lately. When you're looking at those future recruiting classes, how important is it to establish that footprint again locally and remind MHSAA players that Detroit Mercy is a fine home?
Yeah, it seems silly that we wouldn't recruit Detroit very well. We're Detroit Mercy for, so certainly there's a method to the madness, and having a coaches clinic with the best coaches in the state of Michigan. But most of the season is about repairing relationships and rebuilding some of the ones that were pre-existing here, and really, sharing our vision to those coaches. So, maybe it doesn't pay off this season in recruiting, but, 24, 25, 26, those seasons, we should be really ready to take care of business. And, hopefully some of those players don't even think twice about leaving. They just stay and they want to be a part of it and perform in front of their hometown crowd.
Well, they're going to start performing by the way of practices and then obviously leading into games, which you're so excited about. But one of the comments you made after the first practice was something that the coaches have really been drilling into the kids all throughout the summer, and that is consistency, competition, and communication. How important are those, and have you seen progress from April to now in those categories?
Absolutely. Learning expectations is something that's really difficult, especially when you're assembling a staff. So you need to assemble a staff that also understands the expectations, and then being able to uphold those things down on the floor are two very difficult things. But for the most part, I think our program so far has been very, very consistent, which is shocking, right? It's one of those perception things that you have to kind of get over. That after not winning many games last season, the perception is probably that they can't find consistency. Well, they can, and I've been so pleased with how they've competed. Communication is something that everyone in college basketball struggles with, so I know that we're going to keep working on it. But I've been very pleased with my team. They've just been excellent so far, and not to say that we won't have roadblocks or stumbling along the way, but I really like where they're at, and if we can keep this up over the course of the season, I think we're going to surprise a lot of people.
And with 6 Spanish players and a Portuguese player, they can communicate on the court sometimes in a way that maybe their opponents aren't ready for. It makes it a little bit easier for at least a small portion of the team.
Yeah, we've started naming plays in Spanish and Portuguese, and occasionally when we let our assistants coach their respective teams in practice, you'll hear some Spanish going back and forth. So they've just been. It makes for a really unique team dynamic for sure, but it adds a difficulty to the communication piece. But like I said, I've just been so surprised and pleased with the level of our practices and our players that if we can navigate the language differences, I think we're gonna be okay.
And the word you used after that first practice was they're coachable.
Yeah, extremely coachable. I think that speaks to their desire to win. They have a certain sort of resiliency. You don't have that resiliency if you haven't gone through something really difficult. And not winning many games last year, certainly fighting COVID before that, they just keep coming back. And we're teaching them how to win things right now, win drills, win practice, and that's going to win games. So it's a really interesting trajectory right now in terms of where we think we can be based on what we've seen in practice. But we haven't played any games yet, so everybody's really happy, and chemistry's been really good. But you never know what happens when you actually start playing games. And our job is to just make sure we're taking care of business prior to that.
Okay, we look forward to seeing the team on the court. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you're
it.
very welcome.
She's Kate Achter. I'm Denny Kapp, live from the Ed and Brooks room inside Callahan Hall. When we come back, Dan Hasty will talk with the father-son duo, Antoine Davis and Mike Davis, after this here on Titan Media Day.